We had all these different goals. Let's get this many users, this many customers, this much revenue. There was a million different goals. No one knew what they were working towards. And we completely, shifted the mindset of the company overnight towards being completely revenue obsessed. We had one North Star. How do we get to $1 million in revenue by December? We were basically at zero. And so we went from $0 in revenue to $1 million ARR by December in that 6-month period. And that was such a wild time.
Welcome back to Wild Hearts. I'm your host, Mason Yates. I work on the investment team at Blackbird Ventures. This 19-year-old founder turned rejection into a $100 million business in just 2 years. In 2022, Liam Millward was told his startup idea wasn't his life's work and got rejected by Australia's best accelerator. But he didn't just take rejection and move on. Get this, he framed the rejection letter, put it on his desk, and used it as fuel. Fast forward 12 months, Liam raised $20 million, went from zero to $1 million of ARR in 6 months, and is now signing $2 million of revenue every single month. How? Keep listening to find out how. And by the way, thank you so much for subscribing. It means the world to us on the Wild Hearts team here. And so let's dive in. What have been sort of the biggest moments for you as the CEO building Instant?
Yeah, I always look at the company as these kind of, you're always going through the next gate. When we first, I first came up with the idea for Instant when I was studying business and marketing at uni. Before that, I'd started my first business, which was a travel magazine. It grew to 50,000 readers in 12 months. COVID came along, travel killed it. I went to uni and studied business and marketing. And one of my marketing assignments was looking into the recent growth of e-commerce in kind of the middle of COVID. And so that's how I got into the e-commerce world in the first place. And then I was like, right, this is a huge problem. All these people are coming to my website. I'm spending all this money. How do I get more of them to convert? That was like the start of I guess the journey of Instant. And then it was, okay, well, how do we break through the gate to actually get this started? And so I needed to I wasn't technical. I guess I could have learned, but I also just wanted someone to work on the company with and the idea with at this time. I was 17. I started reaching out to hundreds of software engineers on LinkedIn, hundreds, offering them a job, making it sound like we had heaps of cash and that the idea was super fleshed out. And the only person to get back to me, maybe over like a 3-week period, was Will, who's my co-founder today. He was the only person to get back to me. He was 2 years older than me. He was in Sydney. I was in Brisbane, and the COVID lockdowns had just lifted. And so I flew down to Sydney between 2 COVID lockdowns. I couldn't stay in Sydney because I was under 18 and I couldn't check into a hotel. So I just went down for the day. We caught up at a cafe in the city and we started talking about the idea of Instant. We started working on it together. He was working at Wise Tech at the time. I was still doing uni, and we started building it together. And then it was like, fuck, like this is we're actually having a lot of fun. And we started just every day catching up after work and building it. And then we're like, we really just want to be able to hire one more software engineer. We really just need another software engineer. And so we never had the aspiration to go and raise millions and millions of dollars. We just didn't think like that. And so we're like, all we need is 200K. We want 100K to be able to pay a software engineer, and we want 50K each to just be able to leave Will to be able to leave his job. We still lived at home, and so we can pay ourselves. So we went and raised 250K from angels, didn't know any of them. And we raised it, and it took a while, and that was definitely that was the hardest raise ever. Then we hired Patrick. He joined us from Uber, and he moved back from San Francisco. I hit him up on LinkedIn. He moved back from San Francisco to Sydney, and the 3 of us started building it together. Then we applied for StartMate and got absolutely punched in the face. Everyone was like, these kids have no idea what they're doing. I don't even have no idea what they're doing. It's not the life's work. Absolutely fucking punched in the face, which now we can laugh about, but that really got to me at the time. But it fucking fired me up. I was like, fuck these old guys. And so then Michael Tolo from Blackbird reached out to me 2 weeks later. And in that 10-minute interviews that we did for StartMate, I met Michael Tolo, obviously at Blackbird. And he reached out to me on LinkedIn 2 weeks later. But in the interview, the one thing he always says that stood out is we had this really large competitor at the time called Fast. They'd raised shitload of money. Everyone thought they were going to win. They went out of business 12 months later after burning, over $100 million. But the one thing, Michael came into this call and he said, Liam, why are you better than Fast? And he was like, the last interview, I was done with it by this point. And I was like, we're not Fast, we're instant. And he reached out to me 2 weeks later. Then we raised the 2.2 mil from Blackbird in kind of pre-seed funding, and we were off. And we got our first customers, and so we started opening these gates really quickly. We were really proud of the product. We continued to improve the product. We were very product obsessed. And then it got to about June last year. Will and myself rocked up to a lunch with Nikki Shavak and Max, and we were super proud of the product. We had incredible customers. And Nikki's like, yeah, great, awesome product. And it got to we're about an hour in by this point, and I needed to run. And Nikki said, look, I've got one piece of advice for you guys. You really need to get some revenue.
Is that how he said it?
I'm really trying to remember how he said it. It's pretty well known around like the Blackbird office.
It's iconic.
And that was just like a snap moment for me where I went, we are way too product obsessed in the sense that we're not focusing on how to build product that actually increases revenue for our merchants and our customers and increases revenue for Instant. And we had all these different goals. Let's get this many users, this many customers, this much revenue. There was a million different goals. No one knew what they were working towards. And we completely shifted the mindset of the company overnight towards being completely revenue obsessed. We had one North Star, which was June by this point. How do we get to $1 million in revenue by December? And
how much revenue were you at?
We were basically at zero. And so we went from $0 in revenue to $1 million ARR by December in that 6-month period. And that was such a wild time.
Wow. Okay. Wait, keep going. We're now in November.
Yeah. So then that was like, we kept opening these gates really quickly. We're getting punched in the face. We were really figuring out the types of people we wanted to hire, the types of people that worked on the team versus very quickly didn't. The company relies on really great people, but great people rely on a leader to point the company in the right direction. And I started to take that very seriously. So we hit the $1 million revenue by December. Then it gets to January. And kind of across that period where we were growing really quickly, that was with our first product, Checkout. And I was never really satisfied, even though we were growing that quickly, I was never satisfied that hitting $1 million in 6 months was high growth enough. That was not high velocity, in my opinion. And so with our first product, I guess our biggest value proposition was being able to remember a shopper every single time they came back to your website. And so by being able to remember that shopper, we gave that shopper an accelerated checkout experience with instant checkout. And Will and I went to a cafe one day and we're like, right, if we don't get to $1 million by the end of the year, failing on like a project level or a product level, fine. But failing as a company, that is not allowed. That is not acceptable. And I think too many founders, too many companies have this too much of a failure mindset. Yeah, fail. I don't buy into that. I think there has to be, you have to find a way forward. And so we thought, okay, well, what if we don't get to $1 million in revenue by the end of the year? We're fucked. So what is like path B? And so we thought, okay, well, let's just build another product. We're going to build almost 2 companies in one. We're going to keep this side of the company very focused on checkout. And we're going to put this side of the company very focused on this new product called Audiences. And so we hired our first salesperson. We had 2 engineers focusing on Audiences. We built it in December. We launched it in January. In our first month, I think we did like 20K of MRR, which was wild. We had like brands like the Oodie sign up, etc. And so it very quickly went into like it's chaos. We had this checkout product that was growing reasonably quickly. And we also had this Audiences product by January that was also growing reasonably quickly. But nothing was explosive. Neither of these products were explosive growth. And so we just dealt with that for a while. And we put another salesperson onto Audiences and it continued to grow.
And quickly, what's Audiences?
Audiences. So checkout helped a brand accelerate their shoppers through checkout experience. Audiences helps a brand retarget their shoppers, their lost shoppers on their website. So audiences, a shopper lands on their website. We're able to identify that shopper and match them and help a brand retarget them via email, social, etc. And so both products are very revenue focused. We're not trying to save you time. We're not fucking saving you warehouse expenses. Like, we are driving revenue for your business. So we were revenue obsessed, and what we were doing for customers was revenue obsessed. And so we built this revenue obsession in the company. And so then it got to January. We grew to $1 million in revenue between June and December. By Q1, we grew by another $1 million. By Q2, we're signing $1 million a month. By now, today, we just signed $2 million 2 months in a row. That is the velocity. And so and then I guess you'll ask about the pivot. So by June, it's all over the place. Like, it's chaotic. But by June, we decided that, all right, so we've got these two companies in one. We've got two products that are growing like, okay, I guess they were growing really well compared, if we were in the eyes of a lot of other companies. But for us, we felt like we needed to centralize our attention somewhere. Customers started to get very confused at what we were selling. Our sales culture internally was turning a bit too competitive where, do we sell them this product or this product? Engineering resources were very split. We didn't know where to focus our marketing attention. So we had two companies in one. Leadership was just all over the place. And it was a Thursday. Brandon and I, who's our COO, was on a call. And for weeks on weeks on weeks, we're just complaining about, fuck, this salesperson's whinging about this. Oh, do we do this marketing campaign for this or this product? Oh, fuck, engineering's stretched. And we just made the decision on Thursday, randomly. We're like, right, let's go all in on one product from Monday. We're going to shift the entire company's attention to this one product from Monday. And that's exactly what we did. And we did that in June. We shifted the entire company's attention to audiences from June. And no one was allowed to sell or touch or talk about checkout. And that was one of the single best decisions we've ever made as a company. Definitely, probably the best decision we've ever made as a startup today.
Wow. Okay. First of all, thank you. That was a stunning reflection. One thing I just wanted to note was just how beautiful the intersection is between what Instant values and what your customers value. Was that something that you observed in hindsight, where you were like, oh, look, our incentives are like totally aligned now, and what we care about is what they care about, and oh my gosh, revenue obsession is like what beats our heart too? Can you just share a bit more about revenue obsession and like what that has meant for you as a company?
I would say it's probably somewhere in the middle, a little bit of a mix of hindsight and a little bit of a purposeful positioning from the company. We were originally focused on all the wrong things. We were focused on how quickly we could convert a shopper, our differences from something like buy now, pay later, all of these metrics that were just kind of secondary. And merchants would get really excited, but they wouldn't get ecstatic. There was no urgency around implementing the product. It didn't seem like a critical must-have to grow my business. And we started talking about revenue. Just everything was revenue. And this really helped once we had some really reliable case studies and things like that, as a business. We had some really great brands, logos, and they saw great revenue. We then started positioning all of our messaging, whether it was on our website, in our cold calling, in our emails, everywhere, to be about revenue. I think then that kind of just accidentally matched up to, holy shit, we actually need to survive as a company. And the way we survive is to get some revenue on the board. And so those two things kind of happened at once. We figured out how to sell, which was making sure we increased revenue for a brand. We figured out how to not lose customers. We almost have zero churn still today. And customers don't churn because they see a huge revenue increase. And alongside increasing the revenue of our brands means that those customers are willing to pay us. And so all these three things kind of happened at once in the funnel of sales or in the funnel of revenue. And so I think today it's something that we prioritize a hell of a lot. You rock up at so many companies and the OKRs are 54, OKRs for the quarter ahead, and each team has a different North Star, and some teams are focused on this and other teams are focused on, something that team has no idea about. Whereas if you speak to anyone at Instant, everyone is very clear on the revenue goals we want to hit for the month ahead, the revenue goals we want to hit for the quarter ahead, and the revenue goals we want to hit for the year ahead. And everything we work on works towards that. We build product to make sure that we don't churn customers. It's just this revenue obsession, because I think revenue isn't the only metric to track, but it's definitely the most important indicator that tells you you're doing everything else right.
Yep. Let's organize this. So we're in June of 2023, and at least one of our investment questions is this founding team product obsessed? And it's a beautiful quality to have. And it sounds like for you, A, that's part of our DNA, but then B, like actually it's not working for us. Can you just go through a bit more detail around like the before and after experience of that conversation, and then share a bit more about like, hey, you have the overnight change in mindset, but then B, you reach $1 million within 6 months, which is not normal at all. And I'm curious how that was actually unlocked, even though you had this wonderful product obsession.
I would say we still have product obsession today, but we position our product obsession, as I said, to grow revenue for us and our customers. And no customer is going to pay you if you have a shit product or the product doesn't deliver on the results that you say. I just think that there has to be an end state to every initiative, every project, everything you build needs to have, okay, well, what is the end state of us building this? And we had kind of the opposite of that. It was, let's just keep building cool stuff and hopefully people love it. Let's just keep building awesome stuff and hopefully we increase conversion. And there was no end state in mind of, no, let's actually build this feature because it'll increase a merchant's conversion by another 15%. And by increasing a merchant's conversion by another 15%, we'll increase our revenue by another $30,000 a month. So we kind of just added an element to our product obsession, I would say. And product is definitely probably one of the things that I'm involved with most, even still today. But we just weren't focused on product in the right way. I would say that speed is in our DNA as a company. I mean, it's in our name. We're called Instant. I would say the biggest thing in terms of moving towards $1 million really quickly was that the people that we had on the team. I thought that, and everyone makes the same mistake, every founder you talk to. We tried to hire the silver bullet head of sales. We tried to hire the silver bullet head of marketing. We started spending way too much time coaching these really not startup people, and our revenue wasn't growing. We were too concerned about being the flashy new startup, building awesome product, blah, 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 rather than just getting in and getting our hands dirty and growing revenue. And so we basically stripped back the entire team. It was me and Bryce, who is still one of our best salespeople on the team today. And me and Bryce got our hands dirty and we started selling. And we started reverse engineering everything. How many customers is it going to take? How many emails do we need to send? Let's do, we need to make 1 million cold calls. Who are the brands that we're chasing? What introductions can we get? What case studies do we need? We started doing everything. And so you need to do everything. You need to do a lot and you need to do a lot of everything. And I couldn't tell you one thing that worked, but a lot of those things combined started to have this massive spiraling effect of getting customers on board relatively quickly. And we simplified the team. We would catch up every day, every morning, multiple times throughout the day. I was giving Bryce very particular feedback on his emails and the language we were using. I would send emails, I would get introductions, and we just built this really strong team between the two of us. Will was getting on, my co-founder, our CTO, was getting on customer calls. We were closing deals really quickly. We were going against the grain of don't make any customizations, don't bend down to a customer and make all these technical changes just to get them. We did all of that. No matter if a customer would ask us to do anything, absolutely. We would edit the product, we would change the product, a color needs to be changed, we would change it. Our number one priority was getting a customer in the door. And these customers today have turned into such advocates for us. They speak at every event for us. We've got case studies on our website. They're almost like they're so close to us as a team. Every time they come to Sydney, they come and visit us. And so we just had this obsession of speed and simply just hard work. Like there's no way out of hard work. And that's something I'm very grateful for Bryce. He was definitely the right person for 0 to 1. But before that, he had this manager above him and I couldn't really work with him and everything was a bit slow and the feedback loop was very, slow and everything was, well, this is not what we did at X company that I used to, that I came from previously. And so bringing it back to, no, this is just the way we do it here at Instant, or invent something new, invent the process from the ground up, and trusting Bryce as a relatively, junior mid-level salesperson to run at that was one of the best decisions we made. And that type of person on the team has built the competitive and high-paced sales culture that we have today. So no managers, very competitive, high-paced, high speed, high energy, and reverse engineering towards the goal, I would say.
No managers.
No managers.
Is that like the Wild West, or how does that work? What does that actually look like? What's the advantages and disadvantages?
I think that managers should just be leaders. They should be experts at what they do and not turning up every day trying to implement a new process or a new system and quite frankly just kind of annoying people. They annoy me, they annoy everyone else across the team, and we don't get shit done. All we do is talk about it, we set the next goals, and we're reviewing the quarter prior. And I just think we just got to get in and get shit done. We need people who are incredibly smart, who want to do their life's best work and have the autonomy to do their best work. So I rather prioritize hiring really awesome people that are experts at what they do onto the team. I also think that you definitely need leaders in the company though, without making it the Wild West and everyone's kind of running in a million different directions. While you don't have leaders in certain functions, I think the founder should step up, particularly whoever's in, the CEO founder role should step up and lead those functions in significance. Whether that's salespeople, like we don't do whole sales team pipeline reviews. The sales team catches up for an hour. Every single salesperson, there's 10 or something in Sydney now, and every single one of them catches up for an hour with Brandon and goes through their pipeline specifically. And when we originally implement those types of things, we get this feedback across the team. Oh, we're getting, we don't need to dig into it that in depth every week. And, oh, do we really need the all hands every week? Or, oh my God, like this is annoying. And, the blah, 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 blah. But once you just make it normal and consistent, people start to see the value in having a leader rather than a manager that is working alongside them. I went into a meeting, customer success meeting, just 2 days ago, and I said, I think there's a lot of improvement that we can always make in every team. And I said to this team, I'm not coming in here going just fake names like John, you're shit, or, X over there, you're shit, or blah, 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 you're over there, you're shit. If one of you is underperforming or not doing your job properly, we're all shit. If this team is shit, I'm shit. If I'm shit, the company's shit. And so we all need to rely on each other rather than just pointing the blame at a single manager, a single leader. I want to be able to make decisions really quickly. And I also want people across the team to have the autonomy to make decisions really, really quickly as well. And I think removing those layers of management was a huge unlock for us. And people are so much happier turning up to work as well, where they know that they don't need to go through 14 different people to make a simple decision.
One of the decisions that you made towards the end of last year, what kind of goes against your philosophy of speed and how you've optimized for focus, and that is to build with the limited resources that you have 2 products with 2 dedicated teams, splitting attention, splitting focus. And I'd love to understand the decision that you went through to go, yep, we're going to be a multi-product company.
that decision was simply for ensuring the company survived. As I said before, in my mind, it's not an option for a company to fail. There's always a path towards succeeding. You just need to make the decision to find that path forward at the right time. And sometimes it gets too late. So we knew that we could grow checkout we thought that we could grow checkout to $1 million in revenue. We knew that we could onboard customers, and we knew that the product was merchants weren't going to churn. However, we weren't 100% sure of that scenario. And so we thought, okay, well, what if this doesn't work? We had maybe $1 million or two, maybe less than that actually, in the bank. We couldn't wait to the final hour to try and get something else to work. We couldn't wait to the final hour to go, fuck, checkout hasn't worked. We've got $500K of cash in the bank. What are we going to do now? And so over that period, while we were very sales and revenue obsessed from a sales perspective, and how do we get to this mill? From a product perspective, we were very obsessed with what is path B. So that was a period where we hedged our bets as a company. But thankfully, the core infrastructure of both products are basically the same. They were both remembering a shopper every single time they came back to your website. And so the core infrastructure was the same. We just needed to build a different user experience and kind of different sales or messaging motion as a business. And that was a period, particularly between like January and April, May this year, that was a period where we kind of went against our ideal state of speed. But in saying that, we still, it was more an issue around just what is the best bet to grow the company even quicker. We noticed that the team was getting a little too stretched. It was a little bit too chaotic, but people were definitely still moving at speed to achieve the outcomes we wanted to achieve. So basically the decision to move all in on audiences was centralizing our resources as a company. And our hypothesis was that by centralizing our resources into one product, we can begin to see more explosive growth with that particular product. And that's obviously paid off today. But that decision in terms of what product to work on that decision was simply about survival. And it's crazy to see how much of a different scenario we're in. You know, that was basically 12 months ago, November last year, right? 12 months ago, we were in this position of survival. And now, you know, we just signed $2 million in revenue in last 30 days. That's so different.
It's so different. And I want to touch on this like mindset of survival. Like, have you read The Creative Act by Rick Rubin?
I haven't, but I really love the book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things.
Oh, that's a cracker.
And that was a big shift in my mindset of just fucking make it work.
Yeah, that is a beautiful book. One of the things in the Rick Rubin book, he talks about artists, the best ones have the tallest antennas so that they can catch the ideas that are effectively coming through them, and then that they can see them. And in many ways, I feel like that's true for many of the best ideas that separates really special founders. They have those tall antennas to catch that signal, to catch that idea that the universe, if you will, is ready for. And I want to test that by just asking you, how was that idea discovered?
We basically discovered it through our existing customers. I think it was probably, again, a little bit of two things. Discovering it through our existing customers. We had merchants who were wanting a way to better retarget the shoppers that were on their website. Merchants were asking us questions whether we knew who was coming back to their website, if there was a way to send them an email or target them on social. And so they were asking us those questions. And then on the flip side of that, I think it was just, we had so many other ideas in this process. And we also wanted to solve some of the key problems that we were experiencing with our checkout growth, which was we were too focused on enterprise sales. We couldn't integrate with Shopify, which is the biggest e-commerce platform. Mid-market merchants were hard to sell to because they were all on Shopify, but that should be the easiest market to sell to. Integration times were, between 50 and 100 days. You're not going to get explosive growth with those things. And so we thought, okay, well, what can we get live? What can we push live in a week with a merchant where they're going to pay us between $2,000 and $10,000 a month? How do we get access to Shopify? And how do we get access to being able to work with small, mid, and enterprise retailers? Audiences was the answer to that. Our average go live is 4 days. Our average sales cycle is 2. ACV is, over $30,000, and we integrate with Shopify, and we sign a lighthouse brand almost every single day now. And so I think it was a sense of listening to our customers, solving key problems that the business was facing at the time that was halting us from explosive growth. And so getting rid of those blockers. And then the third thing was just giving something a shot. And we thought we were always with checkout coming up against, this is not in our marketing budget. This is not in our marketing budget. This is not in our marketing budget. The marketing budget is the biggest budget of any e-commerce brand. And we wanted a way to get into the marketing budget. And audiences, it comes out of the marketing budget. So they pay very quickly.
Were customers specifically asking for this feature, or run us through some of the conversations that were happening that revealed the clarity of the insight that is audiences?
Yeah, so we were speaking with customers, and we still do catch up with the customer, our biggest customers sometimes, because we're such a critical part of their product. We'll catch up with them, every week, smaller customers every month. And we always explain checkout, the importance of checkout when we first started was we were like a consumer cares for their wallet like nothing. They don't want to lose it. They don't want to misplace it. It's something they keep track of very, very closely. On the business side, on the merchant side, a merchant's most important thing is their checkout. So that enabled us, thankfully, to have consistent, very close relationships and conversations with these brands. Because we had such close relationships, we were visiting them in person, they were speaking with us at events, and they were always speaking with us online. And throughout that, you build kind of a relationship, and you just start talking to these people, and, you're bouncing around ideas or this new feature that we've just launched, or, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we had a merchant that requested this feature to add a checkbox to the checkout that enabled their customers to subscribe to their mailing list, to subscribe to their email retargeting. And we added that feature for them, and they saw insane results. They were all of a sudden being able to retarget their shoppers every single time. And that kind of unlocked, I guess, that first gate with audiences, which was like, okay, well, if this one merchant is seeing incredible results with email, simply by adding a checkbox to the checkout, there's something in here. And so I would say that was probably where we started. And then we thought, well, okay, well, we don't need to add that checkbox to every checkout. And we already know who so many shoppers are across the internet. How do we use the power of that network effect to drive conversion for brands when it comes to marketing? And so, yeah, I guess just one kind of golden nugget feature request from a brand has now meant that we've gone from $0 in revenue in that product at the start of the year to, I think we'll end the year at like $7 or $8 million in revenue with that product that started as a checkbox feature.
It's insane. I think the lesson in the antenna piece, to qualify what I was saying, is you earn a tall antenna with your experiences. And you either earn that through your authentic connection to a problem, or you earn that through the blood, sweat, and tears of just learning really quickly, from launching something doesn't work, as you sort of said before, rerouting where you want to go based on the feedback that you are getting, so that you can ensure that you're catching the signal that everyone wants. And clearly everyone is obsessed with audiences.
One of the things we did so well is when Will and I started first working on Instant together, he probably wasn't the best at communicating with brands or, even internally. today he's on more customer calls, even still today, on more customer calls than definitely me every single week. Like, I think that's been such a power move from, someone who's very, very technical, can understand a merchant's issue immediately, solve their issues immediately, and also know how to implement it from a product perspective on our side almost immediately. And so we've removed these really long feedback loops where it would be like someone non-technical like me or someone in our customer success team jumping on a call. A customer then describes their issue, and then we need to document that internally. And then Will takes a look at it and asks some questions. And then, based on those questions, we might get a response, from Will and go, oh, this is not a priority, or maybe it is. And so you take an idea from a merchant being a 2-week thing to almost it's done and fixed over the weekend. And obviously that's not possible with every single merchant, but for the merchants that matter most, I think that was such a strong power move for us as a company when it came to speed.
I love that. And you mentioned network effects. What are the network effects in this business?
Network effects is still something that we're really focused on figuring out as we continue to grow. I think it'll be something that becomes more and more powerful for us as we expand. And because we're remembering shoppers across the internet, and by remembering these shoppers, these opted-in shoppers, we can help a brand retarget their shoppers after they've visited their website. We start to build this network effect of being able to help brands or help these shoppers wherever they go. And so our product today is the worst that it will ever be. The more merchants that we onboard and the more shoppers that use Instant, the more powerful we become. And I think that's a very, very strong, moat for us as a business is when a merchant first signs up to Instant and first onboards with Instant, they are the worst results they'll ever see, because day on day on day, their results should get better. The more shoppers we remember for them, the more shoppers that shop on their website, the more brands we onboard into our ecosystem, the more shoppers that enter our ecosystem. And so we consistently have these steps of value that we consistently add for a brand, rather than them just getting bored with the results or used to the results, because every single day the results get better. And that's probably been the powerful thing for us from a network side of things, is consistently upgrading our brand's performance. But I would say just as equally, there's so much work for us to do there. I'd say that's probably one of our biggest opportunities ahead in like the next year or two, is to really start to focus on that a hell of a lot more.
I was speaking to Max beforehand, and I was getting some of his insights being so close to you on the journey. And one thing that he called out was, in the early days, you built dashboards for each customer so that customers could see in real time the instant attributed revenue to the business. And he said that decision made a massive impact, and when it was phenomenal for churn. Can you walk us through like how you made that decision and why it was so important?
Definitely. That was probably one of the best things we ever did, and still prioritize today. We generally always have 1 or 2 engineers always focusing on our dashboards today. And obviously we don't still build a dashboard for every single merchant. We onboard over 100 new merchants every month. So that would be a little hard. But in the early days, 100%, we were finding that we were getting on a call with a merchant and they loved the product experience. They could see the results kind of in their store's back-end systems, but it was a little hard to like understand the actual results of Instant. And we would jot some numbers down in an email, and it just didn't seem, it was like, oh, we're giving these 2 young startup guys a go. Let's just give them a go. We weren't appearing like the enterprise solution that we needed to be. We weren't appearing like the billion-dollar company that these merchants were signing up to use. We weren't appearing like the company that every brand, every business must have. And merchants want to see something. They want to see something. So yeah, we built these dashboards which updated every single time a shopper would purchase. And it was in their dashboard, and the charts would go up to the right, and it would show them, the amount of purchases that have gone through, the increase in revenue. We were able to do A/B tests in those dashboards And so merchants could log into this dashboard, and all of a sudden they were getting addicted to logging in. They were getting addicted to logging into this dashboard every single day. And they quickly moved from being like, oh yeah, I guess this is the cool checkout experience that saves our customers time, to holy shit, Instant has increased our revenue by $500,000 a month. And that was the case. And so all of a sudden we became such a critical part of their business. They were logging into this dashboard every day. They were calling us. They were talking to their friends about us. All of a sudden we're getting like inbound leads from people that they were friends with. And it just turned into like this momentum. We went from customers being like, oh, I don't really know if I see the results, I might leave, to we never churned a customer. We've still never churned a customer from checkout. And merchants saw the fucking results that it brought for their business. It leveled us up to being more than just a startup having a go, to no, let's design this dashboard Apple quality and look like we're a lot bigger than we are. And that's been a very strong focus for us as a business. Let's always appear better than we are, or bigger than we are, I should say. Our website, our content, our dashboards, our product experience, our support, we always try and appear bigger than we are.
What have you learned about sales?
Everything.
Well, let me simplify the question into what have been like the earned screw ups that stand out in your mind, and what does a seamless sales team today look like?
Sales today for us is one of the best teams in the company. That team is very high performance, but just as equally runs on autopilot in a sense. And I think that's a very strong position to get a team into. Obviously, it's still it's one of our most important functions, of course. It's very, very heavily overwatched by myself and Brandon directly. We don't have it. We signed $2 million of revenue last month. As I said, we've got a sales team of 10. We don't have a sales manager, and we have no head of sales. Everyone is an IC. And that team is very competitive in a very healthy way. That team is like closest team in the company, but it's very, very competitive. You have a very clear number that you need to hit. It's very possible to hit that number. It's not overly unrealistic, and they hit it and they achieve it, and they work together to achieve it. And they're consistently in cold calling sessions together, and they're working with each other to come up with the best messaging. And they're using my LinkedIn and my email to reach out to brands. And they're speaking with customers. They're hustling on the phone. We don't do any AI, no AI generated emails, no AI calling. We are human first, and which is crazy to say, and just simply hard work. We're not consistently looking at how many calls you've made or how many emails you've sent, unless you're underperforming. All we look at is how many new meetings you booked last week and how many deals you closed last week. And at Instant, a salesperson is expected to close around $1 million of revenue every 90 days. That's wild. That's wild. And we built this competitive sales culture. It's like cult-like culture. And, there's simple things that we do. Like on a Monday, the whole sales team catches up for half an hour before their pipeline reviews. And we look at the week. We look at last week. We look at who booked what meetings. We look at what meetings are coming up for the week that are exciting. We look at how far away we are from our target. It's very clear how to achieve that target. In your first week joining Instant as a salesperson, you're expected to book your first meeting in the first week. Most people book it in like their first 3 or 4 days. We have no onboarding, no bullshit ramp up. You're expected to book your first meeting in your first week. But just as equally, we can, I can talk about all these competitiveness, cult-like culture, blah, 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 blah. It's very healthy. And on the back of all of this, it is so exciting every day because we are just consistently celebrating our wins as a team. Like the whole company gets behind sales. Sales gets behind customer success. Customer success gets behind product. And so we're consistently celebrating our wins as a company. And so many companies say celebrate wins. But like we genuinely do. It's such a positive culture. All hands every week on a Thursday is so positive. The customers we're onboarding is so positive. The results those merchants are seeing is so positive. These salespeople on our team are so confident in selling because the product delivers incredible results to brands. And I think Bryce, like 2 days ago, you might have seen it in our last investor update, Mason, this brand reached out to Bryce being like, can I marry Instant? Like the results I'm seeing is insane. And so when you have brands that love the product so much and aren't churning, and it's a very positive culture, like they fight for the company. And that's the culture that we've built today.
My experience at BugCrowd, the CEO who came in was an elite salesperson and also just an elite CEO. And one of the lessons was this sort of team-wide, like sort of flat leader to like team pipeline session, if you will, to like really understand the session. But there was also this leaderboard that everyone in the company would see if they walked into the office or it was online on who's selling the most. You could see exactly where you stood on the leaderboard. Some would find that controversial, but if you love what you do, you love the product that you're selling, and you're all celebrating the wins and you're hitting quotas, then it's it couldn't be more fun.
The incentive program is incredible as well. So you're getting rewarded for your incredible performance. The customers love your product. It's very easy to, the company has set you up for success in the sense that I talk to so many other AEs when we're hiring, and they're always blown away at like how much effort that we put in to make people's lives a little bit easier. Like salespeople on a Monday get their 100 new leads. They don't have to go and search for leads. They don't have to go and search for phone numbers or emails. It's given to them so they can spend majority of their time selling. So we try and make their job a hell of a lot easier. But I'm completely on the team of dashboards and looking at who's winning. And in our case, a lot of the time, it's important not to make it toxic, I think.
Sure.
So you're not consistently shouting out the person who's maybe not doing so well. But as a business and maybe as the leader of sales, it's important that people should be very close on that leaderboard together. So it is exciting. It is competitive. If it's just one or two or three people always at the top and everyone else is so far down and behind, well, obviously we have kind of two different sales teams in one. We've got the high performers and we've got the people who are just okay. Well, let's just get a team of really high performers, and then that sales dashboard becomes, one of the most valuable assets in the company. And if you walk into the sales area in our office, people always have that dashboard up on their desktop. Every single salesperson, they look at it multiple times a day. There's dashboards in the office. It comes up in the Monday sales meeting. One of the best things you could achieve at Instant is getting number one or number two on the sales dashboard in a month.
In the email that you sent to the team when you were making the pivot in January, it was just a masterclass in clarity and in leadership. One of the sentences that I'm reading right now basically says, from today, we will shift our primary efforts towards the enormous opportunity of audiences. I just want to get an insight into what you've learned about yourself as CEO and as a leader, especially as a young person building this fast growth company.
I would say that I built trust across the team to be able to make a decision like that through prior decisions and also painting the picture for them. December last year, when we were running out of money, we pulled around together and we raised another round on the back of growing to $1 million in revenue. People thought that getting to $1 million in revenue was unachievable. And so many leaders get super depressed and stressed and turn up angry. And, there's an element where I'm brutal, but just as equally, I'm consistently positive about the outcome. And we always find a way forward. And so when we had to make these harder decisions as a business, I think people trusted my ability to make the right decision. But I also ran the decision past a lot of people before I made it across the team and got the teams not necessarily buy-in because I was always going to make the decision, but I painted the picture for them in terms of why I was making the decision rather than just doing it in a generalized way. We had these salespeople who were selling checkout and doing a relatively okay job selling checkout. And so they were going to be a little disappointed because they had deals in their pipeline that they were about to close that they would have lost the incentive for. And they have put all this work into it. The average sales cycle was a hell of a long time. And these engineers had spent all of their time building an incredible product that all of a sudden now we're just ditching. And that was probably the biggest backlash, and I wanted to get ahead of that. And so by the time our all hands is on a Thursday, remember? And so I called this meeting on a Monday with the whole company. I put a short presentation together, and that presentation was not full of the market opportunity and our revenue milestones and what we were going to do from a product perspective. It wasn't full of any of that like it would generally be in a normal, rundown. It was full of the positive thoughts that our customers that we'd signed on with audiences was saying. And I can't remember off the top of my head what those thoughts were, but it's probably basically very consistent to today where, I just showed screenshots of our dashboard with how much revenue we've increased for these brands. The emails that they were sending us saying like basically thank you. The text messages they were sending to the sales team, what they were sending to me, what they were saying to our investors, what they were saying online, what they were saying at events, what our recent case studies were. And so there was like maybe like 20 or 30 slides of just all this positive feedback from customers. And there was still a sense of, okay, well, like, fuck, this is still unsure whether it's going to work. But I just asked the team, I said, we need to go all in and let's make it work. That's what we did moving forward from there. And there were a few things where we didn't think about, like, these checkout customers still needed technical support in a lot of ways. So Daniel, who was leading in our support engineering at the time, he still had to work on checkout for a little bit, which kind of got a little frustrating. And some people in our customer success team, we still had majority of our revenue with this checkout products. They still had to keep catching up with checkout customers. And so there was a period of shift. But in terms of everything that was top of funnel, we called it the top of funnel shift initially. Everything top of funnel shifted towards audiences. We did that overnight. And if you wanted to sign a checkout deal, it's no longer, you're not sign the checkout deal, but we won't onboard it. We're not paying any more incentives for checkout for new customers. We're not building any new features for checkout. And so it was a very hard decision. But once people started to see just how fucking quickly we were growing, and we went from onboarding 5 or 6 customers a month with checkout to 30 customers with audiences, 60 customers, 100 customers in a month, people just got so fucking excited. And it was purely through results. We never, as a company, we raised this, whatever it was, 18 million, 20 million earlier this year. We raised that round in 17 days. We went from a $20 million valuation to a $100 million valuation in 9 months. But we've never spoken about that as a team, really. I've never really addressed with the team how much we've raised. We've spoken about the valuation once at an all hands meeting. People were pretty pumped. People know we have plenty of cash, that we're not going to die tomorrow. And people know that we don't burn too much money as a company either. But we heavily focus always, whether it was the pivot or today, on just simply the results as a company. Our customers love us, the new brands we're onboarding, and the revenue pace that we grow at. And having that mindset across the business is probably something I'm super thankful for.
The last question before I let you go is, what will Instant look like in 12 months from now?
Well, working on so many things, but I think we'll continue to expand from a product perspective, continue to grow at 20 to 30% month on month from a revenue perspective. We really want to crack the US as our next market and continue hiring incredible people on the team. I would say they're the things we're pretty focused on over the next 12 months.
Love it. Any other predictions that I can hold you to in the next time I get you on?
Well, it has to be a revenue number because we're revenue obsessed.
Well, it can be. It could also be like, hey, like we are doing this thing with our team that like most people don't do. Like, let's see how that works out. The list could go on, but yes, I mean, it would be fitting for this episode. Are you running the forecast in your head?
I told the team in an all hands meeting the other day that we need to get to a $1 billion valuation in the next 24 months from 100. So that's, you can hold me to that.
I absolutely love that. Liam, what a joy. Thank you so much for your time. And I can't wait to speak to you soon.
Thanks, Mason.
Thank you so much for joining us on this latest episode of Wild Hearts. If you want to learn from other ambitious people that are building, designing, and creating the world that we want to live in, then please hit the follow or subscribe button it would mean the world to us here on the Wild Hearts team. We have an insane producer, Melia Rayner, an incredible editor, Andy Jones from Welcome to Day One, and our marketing and content support is provided by Jonathan Bleakley, and we couldn't do it without them. If you're searching for investment, please, my DMs are open. Find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to help. And so with that, we'll see you next week, Wild Hearts.